Hello and welcome to Emotional Badass. I'm Nikki Eisenhower, life coach and psychotherapist, and this is where Moxie meets mindful. On today's episode, we are discussing body memories, mind memories, and the 3 F's: fight, flight, and freeze. Post-traumatic stress is sticky to figure out alone. It's difficult to figure out even when you're highly trained. I believe highly sensitive people often present with PTSD-like symptoms because the world is so overstimulating and under-nurturing. So trauma was an intentional specialty that I studied. And as I started understanding high sensitivity more about a decade ago, I started seeing the parallels between trauma and highly sensitive people. Now, if you're highly sensitive, I really don't want you thinking about yourself as highly traumatized. That's not helpful or useful. But I do want to show you what it is to consider yourself through the lens of post-traumatic stress. Most of us have an understanding of post-traumatic stress affecting soldiers who have seen battle. That makes sense to us. And why the post-traumatic stress develops is when they're on the battlefield, their nervous system is just activated and on for an extended period of time. And as humans, as mammals, as animals, our nervous system is not supposed to be on high alert for extended periods of time. Think about a cheetah that runs. Think about a bunny that runs away from a predator. Those are supposed to be very short bursts of energy so that we can fight and save our lives, run and save our lives, or freeze like a possum and save our lives. We are not supposed to be in a state of constantly trying to survive life for an extended period of time. That is, in a way, unnatural. So what happens to our brain and our bodies is this post-traumatic stress disorder. What we're doing in healing is in large part trying to get the mind and body and spirit to understand on a deep subconscious and body way that we are no longer in life-threatening danger. Those of us who are highly sensitive can present with a lot of these symptoms because emotionally we felt really beat down. Emotionally, there wasn't place for us to exist. That's what creates that life-threatening piece that encodes in our brains and bodies in what we know today to be called post-traumatic stress. Most of us are aware of flashbacks when it comes to post-traumatic stress. Even if you don't have any of these symptoms, you can understand. We've all seen enough movies that try to highlight what a flashback is, what a visual mind memory is. And it's just remembering, right? Well, in post-traumatic stress, there's almost like a flash where I stop being in the present moment and my mind takes me back to a memory. In a flashback, the mind, body, spirit doesn't really know that it's the present year and believes it's back in time in that abusive space and energy. It's a very difficult way to live. It's an exhausting way to live. And it's a confusing thing to understand as it's happening to you. And it's an even harder thing to explain to our support networks. Our spouses, our partners, our teachers, if we're in school, our children, if we're parents. It's a very difficult thing to wrangle on our own. Because when that soldier comes back and he's sitting in a restaurant and someone drops a glass or slams a door, they might hit the deck, might hit the ground because it reminds the body of a gunshot. Now, to the rest of the people that are in that restaurant, they don't have that trigger response. Their mind, body, spirit hears, feels, senses that door slam and goes to, oh, that's a door slam. There's no danger associated with that. So their systems don't go to a fight or flight or freeze. What's hard in recovering from some of these traumatic symptoms is not just feeling it in your body, not just having the flashback in your mind. It's coming out of that moment where you have to crawl off of the floor in that public restaurant and see the entire restaurant looking at you. Then there's shame, then there's hiding, then there's stuffing, then there's confusion. And when we can't explain to ourselves what's going on, how do we explain in that moment what's going on? In healing with mind memories, we work on dual awareness. And that takes time and that takes trust with a healer. Over time, what happens is a system, I'll use myself as the example, can have that mind memory take me back, but I can also have a dual awareness of standing grounded and firm in the present day. And as long as my system can hang on to that dual awareness of I'm in 2018 or whatever the present is, it reduces the fear because I'm not fully back there in that flashback. Do you understand how that works? So we work on dual awareness to manage mind memories. And the idea is over time with enough work, and I felt it and I've seen it happen with tons and tons and tons of clients. So if you're in a space with your PTSD symptoms where you feel like it can never be better, please don't believe that. Over time, dual awareness gets easier and easier and easier and easier until you're just present and no longer flashing back. Body memories are different. And I think a lot of us that have a lot of mindfulness, a lot of awareness, and a lot of personal responsibility get to a place where we can articulate, oh, I had a flashback, or oh, I'm having a tough day, or oh, I'm having some post-traumatic stress symptoms, or oh, I'm very anxious today. In body memories, I don't think we have the words because it's not happening in our mind. It's happening in our bodies. Our bodies don't make words, y'all. So what I'm trying to do here, just like every show, is put words to some of the stuff that maybe doesn't even have words to express it. What's shocking to my clients, whether they're with me in person or whether they're having a virtual session over the phone, is that I can sense as an intuitive empath when they're going into a body memory. So what happens often is I will point out a body memory to a client during a session. And that might be the very first time they realize that that's what's going on with their body. We work on teaching the body how to relax, how to soften. When we can understand using our mind as a tool, what's going on with our bodies, we don't have to then have a process of confusion. What's wrong with me? What happened? Why do I feel so weird? That then zaps our energy even further. So we want to use our mind to understand these body memories. Those of you who feel like you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders and have since childhood, your shoulders and your neck and your jaw, they ache, don't they? We want to use our mind to teach the body that you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. That comes from having to carry too much when you were too little for too long. It's also a sign that the adults around you may not have been emotionally mature, causing the highly sensitive child to carry the burden that healthier adults could have carried for another child. The body and mind memories can make us fight, flight, or freeze. I've gotten a lot of questions lately to talk more about freeze, because I think flight makes sense to us. Lots of us have the impulse to just run and get out of there. And it's such a healthy response. That's part of what I hope I impart to you on today's episode. If you're struggling with PTSD in any way that I'm describing, please know that there's nothing wrong with you. Our bodies are these beautiful spiritual machines that are trying to protect us, and our bodies and our minds have just learned that we can be hurt and are trying really hard to make sure that we don't get hurt again. But there's a paradox there. That's why we have to heal. Because in trying not to get hurt, we're often accidentally isolating ourselves and re-traumatizing ourselves, having body and mind memories come up and just not knowing what to do with them. If I'm walking in a dark alley and someone's chasing me, I want my flight response to turn on. Thank goodness I have that flight response. And if someone puts their hands on me, I have a strong fight response. We need both. We need to be able to run as human beings, and we need to be able to fight as human beings, but in appropriate settings. Healing teaches the body and the mind to turn those self-helping mechanisms on, but we have to learn how to also turn them off. And I want you to know, those of you who have frozen during abusive acts, your job there is to stop shaming yourself about that and to let that go. So many people give themselves a hard time because they look back at their lives and see moments where they didn't fight or they didn't run and they froze. And they compound their trauma by being so cruel to themselves about that. And we do not need to do that anymore. Freeze is a brilliant response of the mind and body. We can look in nature, so many animals freeze. That's a biological process. If I freeze, maybe the predator trying to get me will think that I am dead and will stop, and I will get away. And sometimes that is the smartest body-mind intelligence that we can execute in that moment. If freeze is happening for you in inopportune moments, if you have to do a presentation at work and you have some of these symptoms and you're scared that freeze happens for you, you can work on that. We can reteach the body and the mind so that in present day, when danger isn't present, those mechanisms are not turning on. And so that we feel more empowered and more in control to be able to turn those mechanisms off. Your fight response, your flight response, your freeze response are emotional badass responses. If they are exhausting you and making your day-to-day more difficult, you can do so much healing. I want to thank some of you who are supporting the show by giving 5-star reviews. It is everything. I can't express that enough in podcasting. I want to thank Matthew 110183. He talked about a light popping over his head as he was listening to the episodes. Super cool. Thank you. And shout out to the highly sensitive men. You count, you matter more than ever. We need strong masculinity and sensitivity for every cause that is out there. So we need you. You count, you matter. Do not cower. Thank you, Matthew, for your review. Miss Scrooby, SCROBEE, thank you so much, ma'am. KN Peterson, thank you for listening and giving a review. Altitude Awareness, I feel honored. You said it was your first self-care podcast that you found. That's huge. Enlightened Soul, such a beautiful name. We'll end there. Thank you so much. I hope today's episode on body memories and mind memories and the 3 Fs really helped you understand more of what was going on in your own body and mind, or maybe in that of someone that you love. If you'd like to support the show, please get on iTunes and give us a 5-star review. If you want a little more for us, we're doing a live Q&A each month where you get to see me on video and submit some questions on Patreon, patreon.com/emotionalbadass. If you have it in your heart and in your wallet to support the show in that way. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Thanks for being my marketing team and sharing this show. I'm Nikki Eisenhower. I am Emotional Badass because you are Emotional Badass. Together, we are where Moxie meets Mindful. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.